Welcome to Blending the Family, the podcast. Topics can range from dads hitting rock bottom, daughters watching their parents divorce, or even what is a good wine for couples to have while talking about finances. Here's your host, whose bleeding ulcer bleeds Chicago Cub Blue, Tommy Maloney. Holy cow!
All right, the red record button has been hit. Time for the show known as Blending the Family, the podcast. I am your host, sitting here. If you can hear the squeaky chair. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for sharing. On this episode, we have Maria Ashworth. She's an author. She is a ball of energy. I had a blast with this interview. Maria Ashworth. You can find her on the Twitter at Maria_Ashworth. Again, at Maria_Ashworth. Her website, we'll get into that. Let's do the website. www.mariaashworth.com. www. I know my radio friends are mocking me right now. mariaashworth.com. Before going into more detail about Maria, there is a lot of turmoil going on, not in just our country, but all over the world. And I want to address it right now, okay? Here we go. The Cubs are one game away. Their magic number right now is one game of getting into the World Series playoffs. And I know that as I'm recording this, the Cubs lost last night to the Cardinals. I'm not a fan of the Cardinals. I've got a lot of friends who are Cardinal fans, and I don't need any more mockery. I don't need mockery of the Cardinals beating the Cubs, okay? It's okay. They lost last night. We will move on. We will get over this, and the Cubs will get into the World Series playoffs. It had to be said. I'm sorry. This all had to be said. Maria Ashworth. She has several books, and the reason I want her on the show is to talk about her first book. Her first book was called Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, and 4. Matter of fact, it was a 2012 finalist in the National Association of Elementary School Principal Contest. Since that publication, like I said, she's got more books. We talk about new books coming out. She's been on Fox 26 News outside of Houston. She's been in the Houston Chronicle. She's been on NPR. I am adding that to my bucket list. I want to be on NPR. I want to be interviewed with Terry Gross of Fresh Air. I love Terry Gross. You might be able to find Maria. She sings. She reads over at her local Barnes & Noble for story time. She volunteers at 2 local libraries in her area. Mentioned she's on the Twitter, Maria_Ashworth. Mentioned her website, mariaashworth.com. What do we talk about? Thanks for asking. Rules. Rules are different in each blended family household. How do her and her husband handle that? We talk about when it's okay not to take the high road. Okay? I'm on this path as of late. I'm tired of taking the high road. And also, I from time to time, I ask the guests this question, and that is, if the kids don't get along, should you continue your relationship? My philosophy, my wife Ann, that was our philosophy, that if the kids didn't get along, we were going to stop dating. I bring this question up with Maria, and I was very, very much shocked at her answer, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. All right, that's it. That's the show. Maria Ashworth on the show. Go Cubs. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I am so grateful for every single one of you, and I mean that sincerely. All right, that's all I got for you. I'm going to hit the stop button. Maria Ashworth, go Cubs. Yep, it's recording.
Awesome.
All right. My first question to you, Maria, is as a youngster, were books really a big influence on your life?
No. And my parents did not graduate high school, and I do not remember any books, maybe The Cat in the Hat, but any books. I didn't have a bookshelf. The one that I do remember was the very scary Snow White story, very dark and grim. I remember having that book for a very long time. I never had a bookshelf. I don't remember books. So no, and I was a very poor reader when I was younger, which I think that had to do with my parents did not read. My parents did, like I said, they didn't finish high school, so they were young. They were doing their own thing. I don't know. I just didn't have books. It wasn't part of my life.
So where did all this writing and illustrating and spending? I mean, you spend a lot of time at libraries, volunteering. Where did this influence eventually come from?
I have always been a writer. When I was younger, I did a lot of journaling. So that to me was my first start at putting words down on paper. And then I always had, I'm not an illustrator, even though I'd love to be, but I did have a very artsy background. I was always drawing and always putting things down on paper. And I think for me, when I really thought that maybe I had something, was probably more towards 2006. But prior to that, I was married for 18 years and there was infidelity, and I journaled what was going on in my life at the time. And I always thought that I was going to take this and make it into a novel for almost like self-help, self-awareness, and whatnot. And I put that on the back burner. I did meet my next husband, and in probably, like I said, 2006 is when I really sat down because something else hit me in my life, and with my daughter and getting remarried, that prompted me to put, again, a story down on paper.
And was that story on paper the first book, step 1, step 2, step 3, and 4?
Yes. That was my first one that I got down, yes.
And where, for me, I guess we're a blended family, and our description, I kid about that we're like the Brady Bunch, just minus Alice because we don't have the funds to afford a housekeeper.
Right.
But that was truly one of the very first blended families. Where did your positive influence come from when you started creating your blended family?
Okay, for me, it was funny because I really didn't think about that when I was dating my husband. I knew he had 5 kids, and I have 2 biological, and that was not on the forefront, our children. I mean, what I'm saying is blending them. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking about this great guy that I met, falling in love, and then, we have children, and we got to put those together. So again, it really started just making the relationship work. I wanted to make sure my kids did like him. That was important to me, but I didn't introduce right away. And then it was also important that his kids liked me also. But that didn't pan out very well in the beginning, so I hate to say.
Well, what about the kids and the kids? So how did you and your husband morph the kids together? How did they first get introduced to each other?
It was more so, I think when we got engaged and it really became serious, that we knew we had to bring these kids together. Now, at the time, his ranged from 2 to 22, and mine were probably 8 and 9. And so we just knew that we had to do anything to get them together. So the activities, dinners, getting mixed with each other. The kids got along famously. That wasn't the problem. It was his kids, because he had been married twice. So it was tough for his older ones to accept me because the second marriage was so bad. So it really, the kids, that was a breeze. Spent holidays together, because to me, tradition's important. But it was more so having them his kids realize that I wasn't the second wife.
Yeah, that hopefully you're getting a clean slate. That one of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins is, "The past doesn't equal the future." So in your situation, getting the opportunity with the kids and showing to them, hey, I'm not wife number two. I'm a different person. I'm very unique. I want to talk about, you're talking about traditions being very vital to you and important to you. What traditions have you created in your blended family that are unique to your family?
What I do for me is keep whatever traditions I have and try to carry them over to them. We're going to be married 10 years, and I will say it's still difficult with me and them as far as coming to some agreement on, it's still almost like butting heads. It's still tough. The younger ones, it's a totally different relationship. So I really try to instill what I do in my home, like for holidays and stuff. But now they're older. One is 33, the other one I believe is 30, and then we have a 24-year-old. But now they're creating their own traditions. So I want to, kind of do what they want also. So I'm really trying to be flexible here and meet in the middle. It's just been really hard in that respect. But again, it's been 10 years, and I'm still looking for that acceptance card.
Even after 10 years.
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's talk about the first book. I'm excited about step 1, step 2, step 3, and 4. So, in my head, the obvious question is, where did the title come from?
It was funny. I was just wondering because, in the beginning with my daughter, there was a disconnect with the boys, and I said, wouldn't it be interesting if, she didn't call them by their first names, and kids get a little rough, and so I figured, what if she just, step brothers? How about we just title them step 1, step 2, step 3, and 4, And I felt it almost, for me, the flow was almost musical. And just the way step 1, step 2, step 3, and 4, like thing 1, thing 2.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got the title.
And how did the kids react to the book?
Well, when I first did it, I showed it to my daughter who was having the difficulty because I really tried to find something in the market that dealt with transitioning children together. And there isn't a thing on the market. There is books, I'm going to my second dad's house, or I'm going to, my second family, just stuff about having a blended family. But there isn't anything on the market that deals with transitioning children from 2 families to 1. And so that's how that happened. And she was, like I said, she had real difficulty. And just like the little girl in the book, she didn't want she had a Jack and Jill bathroom, so where they had to share the bathroom, and she would constantly lock them out, lock the door so they couldn't get in. She would do anything possible. She'd hide her food, her candy, whatever she had, but she did, she was not having it. And I think too, when, you've been through a divorce, I was married for 18 years, and then okay, you have to start accepting the new relationship, and now you want me to accept children, siblings, brothers? No. And then having to share the mom, and what's going to happen, and is my mom going to be there for me, and how is she going to split me with all these other new kids now? This isn't fair. And that's how that came about. And so I read it to her, and I read it to my new husband, and they were just like, wow, you have something here. I said, no. And they're like, yeah, you do. There's something good here. And that's when I took it seriously, that I started going to the meetings for SCBWI, which is a Society of Children's and Illustrators for Writers. And I just honed in on my craft, and now I have 4 books out and still have stuff coming out. So that's how that started.
And do all of your books have family theme, blended family theme?
No, it doesn't. But I do have another one in my head that I want to get down on paper, because there are things, even in the school system, when they're come bring dad to dad and daughter night, come and it was, some things were really difficult for her because she had to choose between 2 dads. So that's going to be my next thing that I do.
Well, talk about that. And I'm sure, your daughter probably didn't want to rock the boat between, as you said, 2 dads. How did she handle those situations?
It was hard for her. I do have a son also, but he's more flexible. But she's my one where she doesn't want to hurt anyone. And my son's the same way. But with her, and same thing with my son. But not wanting to, call him dad, even though they absolutely love him to pieces. So they kind of keep that respect there. And then certain situations, I remember her saying, what do I do? There was a school event. What do I do? I said, and her biological father traveled a lot. And I said, well, you can decide. If your dad's not going to be there, then you can always ask Dave. And so there were times that she did ask Dave to go to an event. And like I said, my ex-husband, he travels a lot, so he really didn't take it to heart. But we have talked about, she's 20 years old now, we have talked about the future of her, ever getting married, and she already has it planned. She already knows who's going to walk her down the aisle. She knows that she's going to dance with her father, and she's going to dance with Dave also. There's going to be a certain song for Dave and a certain song for her dad. She even said Dad and Dave will walk her down the aisle. And I'm just like, oh, okay, wondering how that's going to work. But I know my husband today would probably back out and let, her father take over, because, he earned that. But, she definitely thinks about how they feel, how they both feel.
And, what's the relationship? I know you're saying it's even after 10 years, the relationship's been difficult with Dave's kids, but let me rephrase it. What advice can you give to other blended families in a similar situation where, again, even after 10 years, it's still not, and I don't want to use, I'm sure there's still love there. For example, the situation with that I'm in is that my wife's oldest daughter, we have a good relationship. It's just not great, versus my wife's other daughter, younger daughter, where 2 of us are like pals and buddies. Mm-hmm. So let me just keep going, and that is, for me, there's times where when the older daughter's here, I kid about this to a lot of people, but it's true. I go hide because we don't have that solid relationship. Mm-hmm. And we've both tried, but I think we're both, she'll be 21 in in January. And I think we both tried, and we both realized that, this is as good as it's going to get, and that's okay. So what advice can you give to other blended families that are in similar situation as you, that is there a time where it's okay to surrender or keep pushing forward?
Okay, I am going to give you a couple of instances, and I think your viewers are going to go, oh my gosh, I probably would just, yes, go run and hide. So, the oldest one was 21, and she seems to be like the matriarch of the top three. And she was 21, she was living with her dad when she was going to college, and we had just got engaged. I was in there, she started slamming doors, and he's like, baby, what's wrong? Now, I will let you know, I'm from New York, he's from East Texas, so, there's also that thing in play also. I'm, up front, in your face, tell it like it is, and he's more bless your heart.
Yeah.
And I just can't. So at that point, he's like, what's wrong? And she just blatantly said she can't stand me, and it's either her, her or me. She wanted her father to choose. And I was in the other room, and I have an ear to the door, and I was like, what is he going to do? So he says, I love you. I love both, but I love Maria. I'm not going to let her go. That was it, okay? We waited 9 months to get married because we wanted to make sure the kids were on board, and we didn't rush into this, that we wanted to show them that this was real. Well, we had a wedding, and 2 children didn't show up.
Ooh.
Yeah, the top 2 did not show up. It hurt. It really hurt, because you have family coming, and where's these 2? I don't know. Afterwards, supposedly they got lost, but they didn't get lost. They knew exactly where it was, easy as pie. And even after the fact, you could have come back. You could have come to the dinner. You could have come to the house. It didn't happen. So I could easily have held a grudge forever on those instances. I didn't. And so I guess what I want to say to your viewers or your listeners, that no matter what, you got to be the bigger person. At least that's what my husband always says. You got to be the bigger person. You love him, but you know what the relationship is. I still keep trying. I will say I do keep trying. I do not hide. I am visible, and I think because I want to be a team with my husband. And I gotta say, those 2 instances are not the only ones. And I don't know if they're going to listen to this podcast, but when I go to events today, I have grandchildren. When I go to events, they have birthdays, Christmas. It's terrible. I am not in one picture. Not one picture, I swear to you. And I even mentioned one of the kids put pictures on Facebook, and I said on Facebook, I was there, people, really, I was. And she responded, oh, I do have a picture somewhere of you, but it never went up. So there's always a lot of smacks in the face for me, and yet I'm always going to be there. I'm always going to go to the events. I'm always going to try to be the best stepmom that I can be, and I am rough around the edges. I do make mistakes. I am at fault. But those 3 older children, especially the older 2, know how I treat the little 2, which are from the second mom. And I do everything and anything. I make sure there's, baked goods when they come on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th. I make sure that we do things as a family. The now 16-year-old, he's kind of a little cool, but he wants me to dye his hair. I never dyed anyone's hair. He wanted me to strip the color out and make it blonde. I never did that before, but I'm going to do it. I'm definitely going to do it, and I'm going to try to do it well. He loved it, and that brought us even closer, those little tidbits, those little things. So I'm going to say again, be a team player no matter how many strikes you're given, and go beyond, and try to be the best step parent you can be, even though, because I know how I am as a mother, and I know how I try to be as a stepmom. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And if I'm going to get, keep on getting kicked, I'll keep getting kicked, but I'll get right back up. And I don't know, I'm married to this guy. I went in this with the knowing he had baggage, and I had baggage too. And I'm going to say he has not lived an easy life with me and my kids. So
for example,
put up with what I put up with, for him to put up with all the stuff that he's lived 24/7 in my house, then I could put up with a little kick.
So what would be a good example of Dave putting up with you all?
Oh my gosh, I almost can't get into it, but one of my kids, very rebellious, very, he was just young, very rebellious, and, things that were said, things that were done, and still Dave just keeps on coming back and staying in it. God, I don't know if I'd stay in it. I don't know, if all the things that he's gone through with me, I'm not sure that I would have stayed. I can't even begin to tell you. I really can't. It's I can't.
So what do you think Dave's secret is, though? Because, like you said, it sounds like in this situation, Dave is just a great guy, bottom line. And what do you think his internal secret is that he keeps staying?
He says he loves my kids just as if they're his own. And, I think that's a lot of the jealousy from the upper children, his children, because he is spending 24/7 with my children and not with his own. And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. I will say that. So for Dave loves my kids as if they were his own. So I think him, again, same thing as myself, knowing I did not tell him that I don't have children when he married me. He knew I had children. He knew, having a biological family is difficult. Having a blended family is way more difficult. And when I hear other blended families who are just going around, la, 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 I'm jealous, But he has 5 kids. I have 2. You're bound to have problems. But it's how you work through the problems. Be there for each other. Listen to each other. He's in it for the long haul. He's had 2 failed marriages. He's not wanting a third. And same thing for myself. I mean, we've had problems. Could I have run away? Yes, but every marriage does. And I always say the grass is greener, maybe greener on the other side, but you still got to water it. So no matter what relationship you're in, biological, blended, you just got to work through it. That's what you signed up for.
So how do you and Dave work through it?
Oh, I'm gonna say it has not been easy. We've had butted heads. Dave, a lot of the time, because he lives 24/7 here, feels that we're on 2 separate ships, and I have my own crew, and he doesn't have a crew. It's a lot of, well, these are my kids. Well, these are my kids. So, for instance, when his kids come to the house, especially the little ones, I will, they know the rules of the house. And if I get on them too much, Dave would definitely come on in and say, well, Brooke didn't do this, and Brooke never cleans her room. And I'm just like, okay, we're not talking about Brooke. We're talking about your children, And he does a lot of that. So if we're talking about his kids, he will try to make a point with my kids, which doesn't work for me. I don't like that. I just like to talk about what is happening at that point with those children. So communication is key. So I will definitely say, can we not do that and just talk about the issue? So we definitely do try to do that. I will say I'm the hotter of the two. So I will definitely go all New York and try to plead my case, you know. Um, but it's communication. It's working through it. Coming back later and saying, "I see your point of view. I understand it." Um, I'm a big person of where, no, we're not going to talk about this issue in front of the kids because they will see the divide, and I don't want them to see the divide. I need to they need to see that we are uniform, that we are together up front, a team. And then you want to talk about them separately behind closed doors and get all up on it. I'm all cool with that. But if they see the divide, they're going back to their room and they're going, I got it, you know?
Well, a couple of things that you brought up, and I want to start with the divide piece, and that is, do you feel that kids still need to see, not necessarily violent arguing, but arguing to the point of they can see how to handle conflict versus the conflict being behind closed doors? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. We have conflict, and we do conflict right in front of the kids. He's more of the raise your voice type of guy. I'm more of the monotone, get heated on my last nerve. If we get to a point, I'll get heated. But no, my kids know we argue. They see it, they know it. I'm just talking about when it's your kid, my kid type of thing. That cannot happen because they will feel, well, dad's sticking up for me, and my kids will say, my mom's sticking up for me. I don't want them to see that. That's the part I don't. But other than, how we handle conflict and resolution, no, that's important for kids to see, because if I hear no one fights, oh, stop. No.
Well, another point you bring up, and it really is a different world in the world of blended family, of kids have different rules in different households. And when you have families that aren't a blended family, the so-called norm, they don't understand how difficult it is coming from the kid's point of view, going, well, when I'm at mom's house, I don't have to do this, but when I'm here, I have to do this. And it's really hard to have conversations with kids going, well, why do I have to do this here when I don't have to do it there? Or why do I have to do it here when, those are the types of conversations that, the so-called, normal family really don't have to deal with. So how do you guys handle those kind of situations?
We did that way early. Way early. That's dad's house. Well, that's mom's house. Different set of rules. They did very well with it. I have certain rules here. Dave has certain rules here. One is 16 right now, and the other one is 13. And Dave puts the 16-year-old, hey, lights out. 11:30, lights out. He abides by it. For our home, we are more. I hate to say we're strict, but we think it's important to parent. And I think when my little guys go home, there are no restrictions. And same thing with my kids go to their dads, there are no restrictions. None. So I think it's important that they do see it, and I think kids need it. I think kids need it. And again, how do you differentiate? Well, that's mom's house, this is dad's. It's just the way it is. And start early. Start setting it down early. And they got it. Our kids got it. We've never really had any big issues other than, are we ever going to clean your room?
Is that a big deal, cleaning the room?
For me, yes. Yes, because I'm the maid. Yes.
Well, and the reason why I bring it up is that there are times where, and this is just me being me, and that is, I, I do want, I want the rooms picked up. Do I really want them immaculate? Sure, but in my theory is that I think there's more important life lessons, and in time. And I'm gonna here's a perfect, maybe it's a perfect example. So, as you were earlier saying that you weren't a big book reader as a kid, but something morphed into it. And my feeling is that if I keep harping on our kids saying make your beds every day, which for example, when my son is with us on the week every other weekend, I tell him, number one, your bed has to be made every day. And it goes back to before I got remarried, when I was living in my townhome, and he would be over. I told him every weekend that he was with me, he had to make the bed. Now we created a weird tradition, and that was once a month we would say it's no making bed day. And it was just one of those fun things that he and I created. And so it just gets, I look at, as a parent, when we harp on our kids too much, Maria, they're going to do the opposite. My mom told me, do not get your ear pierced. Do not get your ear pierced. Do not get your ear pierced. I go out and got my ear pierced, and she threw me out of the house. Mm-hmm. So I look at the perfect example, and I had this recent conversation with another parent, the same thing about keeping the room clean, and I'm just like, shut the door. It's kind of their safe zone. It's their comfort zone. But again, do I want it picked up? Yeah. I mean, if I have to go in there, I don't want to be stepping on something and screaming obscenities. But I get to the point where I think there's, again, this is just me, I think there's more important things in life that we should be worrying about than necessarily keeping the room clean.
And I agree. And, because I look at the things that I've done with my kids, I have two kids that are totally different. And so when I say keep your room clean, that is pick up all the dirty clothes off the floor, pick up the wet towels, and that's as far as I'm happy with that. Now, making your bed, I don't care if you throw the blanket on it. I really don't care. I'm not that strict. So the only responsibilities that Dave's kids have and my children have, but my kids are older now, so they're pretty independent. But like I said, pick your dirty clothes off the floor, put them in the wastebasket, and pick up wet towels. I clean the sinks, clean the toilets. I vacuum. Oh, and they have to put away their clothes. I wash their clothes, put them on their bed, they put them away. That's it. And other than, you got to take your shoes off in the house. And let's see what else. It's pretty much, I'll do everything for you. I'm just looking for those little things to get done. And, like I said, I have two children. One is more cleaner than the other. I parented the same way. And yeah, I've learned, because I was raised in a very, very strict home where, really strict. So I am a lot lenient today. For instance, if my daughter, when she was younger, wanted to walk out in short shorts, I was fine with that, because I never walked around in short shorts. I was never allowed to. Dave had an issue with that. We've had an argument over that. So there are certain things. Oh my word! This summer, I went. I've never gone over my internet megabyte minutes or whatever it is. I got charged because my kids, his kids were on non-stop all through the night. Radio, computer, phones. And I went over my minutes. And so I was like, hey guys, not happening. Now I got to pay an extra fee because you guys can't get, and this was during the summer,
right?
Because you guys can't get off. So there's certain instances like that that I'm not cool with. You know, if they're paying the bill, fine. But there's certain sticklers, you know, certain things I'm a stickler about, and some that I don't really care. I don't. There's some things that I'm so flexible on, I don't care. You know, and I'm going to say Dave is more of the neat freak than I am. I'm just liking things to just get picked up. He wants, you know, get it done. You know, make sure it's not happening. You know, everything's away and blah, blah, blah. And then when the boys go home, we do make sure that they've made their bed, the room is picked up, the Xbox is put away, and we're good. That's it.
One of the things I've been struggling with of late, Maria, is the whole high road. And, you know, when you're dealing with a former spouse, it gets to a point where you can take the high road time after time after time after time. And I was saying to my wife recently, I go, you know, I'm really tired of it. I'm really tired of trying to be good. And I've caught myself of late of, you know, taking a lot of things personally when my former spouse will send me an email. What's your thought on the whole high road? When do you get to a point where, gosh, I don't want to do it anymore? Or have you?
Mm-hmm. So with my ex-husband, he has a lot of money at this point. So, you know, and he was paying me alimony. In the state of Texas, alimony is not heard of. But he was. So he became pretty irate, you know, when I got married, and he's still paying me alimony. So that was really difficult for him. So there are certain times when it comes down to, you know, money-wise, we have an issue there. As far as we pretty much get along fine. For instance, my husband, Dave, he prays. He started my household praying at the dinner table, praying at every meal. He gets down on his knees on the side of the bed and prays since I first met him, so it's not fake. Now he even prays in the shower. So he instilled that in my kids, and my ex-husband would laugh in front of my kids when he had them and said, "Are you freaking kidding me? You guys pray at the dinner table? Oh my gosh." So that was a problem there. Even though my ex-husband and I got married in a Catholic church, he was laughing about this. And then with Dave's two wives, I get along famously with the first wife. And she even sent me at one point a letter, an email stating how I am a terrific stepmom to her kids and couldn't get any better. And I've saved that. I've never thrown that away. But I'm sure there are times where her husband mentioned something about my food, and his kids told Dave Mom was very upset over that. And so I think sometimes jealousy factor comes in, but that's okay. We get along fine. We go to events together. We get along famously. The second wife, major issues. Major. Kids would not go to open house for school. Kids would not, the two little boys would not go to certain events because Mom didn't know that there was a certain event, and yet Maria did, myself. So I would look up when the kids had open house, when the kids had first day of school, anything, and I'd go to the events, me and Dave. And one point, so I haven't talked to his second ex-wife for 3 years because I sent her an email. I said, you know, open house was today. And she goes, no, open house is Monday. I said, no, that's for a different school. No, it's Monday. And it got so bad on the phone. She was calling me everything under the sun. You're not the mother, blah, blah, blah. And so I cut that off. We no longer speak. And then she has two other sons from two other people. and the one son treats me like his mom.
Aw.
And so we went to his graduation for college, and he said, let me take a picture with my two moms. And she probably wanted to cut me up, but I just thought it was great. So pretty happy about that. I get along, the kids know how I am with them. So like I said, the second wife, I've just cut that off. I don't get anything. I don't get anything from that woman. And plus, I do not like the way she parents. Her children have to do everything in that house. These boys are washing dishes. These boys are cleaning the animal bins. The boys are vacuuming. The boys are latchkey. The one thing that really got me is when she moved and the boys missed the first 3 days of school because she didn't enroll them. Now, if they lived with me, everything would have been done. And then they can't do certain sports because she doesn't want to take them. So unless there's a late bus or whatever, then she won't do. So there's just some things that I just feel like she's not giving the boys the best life that they could have. That's why I can't deal with her anymore. And we have definitely offered the boys to come live with us. We'll do everything for them. It's not a bribe, but everything for them. Like wash your clothes. All you have to do is, 1, 2, and 3. And, he just got his license, a 16-year-old, and she said, I'm paying you first month of insurance and you're going to pay the rest. Well, I disagree with that for the fact that the kid's 16 years old. He's not going to make, $1,000 to pay his insurance. It's just not going to happen, plus gas. So certain things that I just feel that these boys are not getting a good life. They're just not. So that in a nutshell is, and even Dave with my ex-husband, even though he's been laughed at and been called a country hick or whatever, Dave still goes over, shakes his hand, how you doing, man, blah, blah, blah. So it is what it is. They're going to be in our life forever, but I don't have to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. And I'm not going to put myself in that. I don't have to because this woman doesn't give me anything. So that's all.
I'm sure Dave uses the famous Southern bless your heart.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Really, that means something totally different.
Oh, yeah. I've lived in the South, and I miss it. As a fellow writer, I'm going to change gears a little bit. What is your writing regiment?
I go to the gym in the morning, and then I pretty much sit in front of the computer lots of hours. And but I do a lot of volunteering. So I do volunteer at 2 libraries, one as president, one as a secretary. I started volunteering for Barnes & Noble in probably like 20 minutes away from me, and I do story time for those children. Absolutely love it. And my kids go, Mom, what? And you don't get paid? No, but I love it. Friday from 12 to 2:30, we have a critique group that meets weekly to go over our work. And I help other people online when need be. I do school visits, at least I try to do school visits when I can. And pretty much I'm at my desk all day. So I have 48 manuscripts ready to go. Really, I have more right now. 48 children's manuscripts ready to go. I have some adult women's fiction ready to go. So I just got to get myself in order with editing and stuff like that. But constantly doing something with writing daily.
New book coming out, new novel, right?
Yes. So new picture book will be Real Giraffes Wear High Heel Shoes. And my tagline is, boys can wear pink. Some boys like to wear pink. Some girls like to play with trucks. Why can't giraffes wear high heel shoes? So that's the gender neutral picture book. So I wanted that to be I didn't want anyone to know if the giraffe was a boy or girl, because I remember when my son used to love to put on my high heel shoes. And so I wanted that book to be used for that particular purpose, because I think some daddies have a trouble with it. But then again, in the book, there isn't he, there isn't a she. It's just the name of the giraffes. And then Sushi Kitty is a tale. It came about to novel, a middle grade novel. And that came about with me sitting in a sushi restaurant. And do you eat sushi?
No, I like my fish cooked.
Okay. Do you go to a sushi restaurant?
No.
Okay.
I'm an embarrassment in a sushi restaurant because I asked once to have it cooked and
cooked. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for those listeners, if you've ever been in a sushi restaurant, take a look and see if there is a female chef behind the counter. And I'm going to say there is not. And if it is today, maybe today, but Sushi Kitty, I've been writing for a while, for years now. So, but there is not a female behind the counter cutting sushi rolls. And then, so I did some research on that. And the research was a woman's hands, this is a tale, woman's hands are too warm to make a sushi roll. And also the perfume does something to the sushi rolls. And I gotta say, the other line is because a woman, when she menstruates, that also changes the taste of the fish. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what they say.
That's crazy.
And then the other thing was, there is this cat statue that sits in Japanese restaurants and sushi restaurants, and it's a waving cat statue. And I wondered why is it here? Why do I see this all over? And it's called a lucky cat. And so I've incorporated those two things into one book, and it's really, for me, it's like a Japanese version of Brave. And it's this girl in the 17th century of a fiction town, Tekatau, and she wants to be a sushi chef like her grandfather. But at that time in the 17th century, no woman was seen outside the home. You worked at home, you raised your family, you did everything you were supposed to do, but you never worked outside the home. Sushi Kitty does just that. That's what she tries to do. And I want the figurine, I can't give it away, but I want the figurine, when you see it, when kids see it today, to be known as Sushi Kitty, the first female sushi chef.
Well, the next time we go out for Chinese food, I'll look for, because I have seen the cat. I mean,
right.
When you start talking about that, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I'll make it a point to, hey, look everybody, it's Sushi Kitty, and they'll all look at me and go, get out again. So I get a lot of pushback from other guests on the podcast when I say my wife and I had a vow, and that vow was if the kids didn't get along, we were not going to continue dating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. Because the children can definitely make things miserable. They can definitely, you're in your marriage and you have one kid that just keeps making trouble for you. And yes, I totally agree with you. And that was the thing too. If my kids, with any guy, but if my kids weren't happy, then no, it probably would not be the right marriage for me, even though I loved him. But maybe when the kids are older and we weren't married and we weren't married to other people, maybe it could be a different story. But my thing, if your kids are, adults now, that's a different story. But when they're young, realize that they're going to play a big part in your marriage.
I think that's a good way to end it, Maria.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Blending the Family. Don't worry, we know. Tom Honey.
You cut out.
Oh. Thank you for listening to Blending the Family. Don't worry, we know. Tommy's not funny.